What is going on, guys? My name is DJ Miles, and I'm here with Infinity Joe to review Netflix's Disenchantment Season 2. Stay tuned.
And restore Dreamland to glory. Whatever happens, we're gonna fight back together.
We'll have to wing this in a dangerously half-assed manner.
So let's just kind of get our initial thoughts on Season 1 as a whole, and then we can talk about Season 2.
Alright, for the most part, there is a lot of clunkiness to me, but I give it some leeway because it is, like, first season syndrome. Like, they haven't quite found the characters' voices, they're more establishing things.
And their footing, and
maybe also setting up, like, what's going to be running jokes that'll happen later on. But, like, Season 1 of Disenchantment, I was with it for the most part.
But I love the animation. I love the characters. It was hit or miss with some episodes, and especially when it actually started, I'm like, ooh, what's this grand tale I'm gonna get? And then you don't really get a grand adventure. You just get one-off episodes I feel like anyone can just watch and enjoy. And then it wasn't until the end of Season 1, here's an actual story, and then they leave us with the cliffhanger now leading into Season 2. So let's go ahead and now talk about that. I wish I can say I wanted to love it, but I found Season 2 okay.
Yeah, biggest weakness the show has is that it can't decide how much it wants to focus on the big epic story versus the small comedy bits. It's a struggle that they're trying to find. I have seen other shows that did it better, like Gravity Falls is one of my favorite shows. They were able to have this big overarching mystery going on while simultaneously doing standalone goofy episodes.
Yeah.
While also having, like, at the end of their first season have kind of a climactic two-part episode.
Yeah, and you know what? Final Space actually does a really good job with doing that as well, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do our solo single stories, but it's always leading to the overall narrative, which I really enjoyed Final Space. But with Disenchantment, after episode 1 into Season 2, episodes from 3 through like 8, they're just one-off stories, which it's fine, but it's not leading to the overall narrative up until the end of episode 9 and 10, and I'm like, wait, now you want to tell this story again?
As you said, like, they just kind of go back to just having these one-off episodes, and I felt like there were hints where they were kind of doing a little bit more. I did like the episode in which King Zog, he's now lost both of his wives and how he's kind of struggling with that. Like, I actually found that as a pretty good episode when he meets the Selkie Ursula and how he's having to also learn himself of, like, even if I love someone, I need to let him go kind of deal.
Yes, and I like those character moments where you see him grow like that. If they're going to make him as the one-dimensional dumb king, that's fine, but then don't have episodes like that where he grows as a person only to revert back in the previous episodes.
Yeah.
That is my kind of criticism with it. We seem like we're actually super critical with this show as a whole. I do like the animation. I do like this world. I think even Season 2, what they done with some of like the shading and the outlining with certain things looks even better than Season 1 for me. Our three main protagonists, Lucy, Bean, and Elfo, I love watching their adventures. Even if it wasn't the overall narrative story that I wanted, that Season 2 kind of promised me, I still love those episodes, right?
Yeah.
Episode 2 specifically, when they were everything with God, I thought was funny. The whole layer of hell looked great. You know, those little moving pieces remind me of some Super Mario level, right? That is fun. Derek, I didn't realize how much I actually love Derek as a character up until those later episodes, and I'm like, oh man, he's such a great addition. I don't know why we didn't get more of him up until the last quarter of this season, you know?
Well, and therein lies another criticism I had, is that I felt like Season 1, they didn't give you much in the way of, like, Una and Derek. Like, Season 2, you at least get a little bit more with Una, because I did like her whole addition of, like, how she's upset that she was kicked out after Dagmar came back. Her saying, like, hey, Bean, I tried to raise you like a mother would, and you always pushed me away. Then also her whole thing of, like, I want to focus on me now, so I'm gonna go off and be a pirate. With Derek, it seemed like he was just kind of a footnote in Season 1, and I kind of wish they would have had him and Bean have more episodes together, like, actually show them as, like, siblings, because not only that, in the first season, I did not know that they were siblings. Like, I thought Derek was Una's son from a previous marriage or something like that. Like, not even that he's a legitimate, like, heir to the throne.
So now here's something I know a lot of people are going to ask. Where does this compare to Futurama? Where does this compare to Simpsons? I gotta let you know right now, I absolutely adore Disenchantment. Here's the thing. I think it's a stupid thing to even discuss because those shows had decades and episodes upon seasons of being fleshed out with their characters telling what they wanted to tell. I think it's a little unfair to really judge Disenchantment on only 20 episodes.
That's true, but it's also like Simpsons and Futurama, they kind of knew what they were. Like Simpsons was always going to be, it's a slice of life comedy and things are always going to be more or less reset to zero. Like any character development is always like backtracked for the next episode.
Of course.
Futurama the same, but even like at least Futurama in their later seasons actually got to a point where they wanted to tell like serious stories, and those were the ones I always felt were like the most well written, like the 3-part episode of Bender's Game. With Disenchantment, it's still this struggle of we want to tell these goofy stories with these characters, but we also want this bigger like mystery or adventure, because like another thing that I feel like we got to talk about is how they still don't want to talk about what's the deal with Elfo's mom, and I feel like it's not well handled. Well, and therein lies part of it. Like, they had it set up as, like, at the end of season 1 of, like, oh, well, you're not an elf, you're half an elf. Your other half is, oh, I can't say it because circumstances. But then, like, how season 2, it's like, there's, at any moment, they could have just resolved that, but it's more like they want to keep it teased, but it's like, we know the answer. Or at least you gave us enough to know the answer with stuff like when Bean and Elfo go to the ogre kingdom and why is this ogre queen being so nice to them, and why did she react to hearing the name Elfo, but they still don't want to address it for the rest of the season. Or even like they set up this whole mystery of what do the elves want with Dreamland,
yeah,
how it's like they allude with one of them saying like, hey, there's something underneath the palace that we need to get to. Nothing afterwards though that they do with that. It's like maybe we could have seen throughout the season of them like trying to work their way into the castle to find whatever it is, but instead it's like, no, there's something there. We'll get back to that at some other point.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are all fair criticisms. But overall, I still found the show very enjoyable. I will say I did enjoy season 1 more. Those one-off episodes about them partying in the castle when Zog was away, super memorable. As in season 2, it's more of season 1, I think with a little bit more pizzazz, but it kind of falls at times more than I wish. All that being said, I know this sounds more critical than we were praising it, but I would still give it a solid 7.5.
I'm kind of in like a 5 range on it, but that's mostly because it doesn't do enough for me to hate it outright, but it never does anything for me be like with it all the way. So middle of the road for me right now that I can't give it a solid recommendation to anyone, but neither would I tell people don't watch it.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely on board for season 3, and let's just kind of now talk about spoilers then. So, we all know from season 1, at the end of season 1, that Bean's mother was evil. She turned all these people to stone. It seems like they almost kill her off in the beginning of what, like episode 2 or 3 in season 2? We get the reveal where she saves Bean at the very end. I never thought she was dead, so for her to come in to save Bean is like, I kind of saw it coming, but at the same time, I'm like, but why is this story relevant again? And it wasn't until like that steampunk episode where they even had to use the gun as a plot device, and Zog is now out of commission. Bean is the culprit. I'm like, oh, but why are we now getting a story narrative again? I was just enjoying my one-off stories, right? Because I was accepting it for what it wanted to be, and then they're like, no, here's the story again. And I'm like, now this is a little bit jarring.
They leave it at a cliffhanger, but I feel like it's only barely a cliffhanger because it still feels more like you could have resolved the story and then still left with a cliffhanger of sorts. Like,
you know what I thought was also fascinating too was that reveal of who are those evil people that made Lucy in season 1 to find out, wow, they're Dagmar's brother and sister. Let's learn more about that. So when season 2 started with that, I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I didn't know I wanted this. And then they do nothing with it. That's kind of disappointing for me. I also want to say, although Udval, right, season 1, he's the king's assistant. And, you know, they have that, like, ominous, evil look to him. But he was never that guy. So why did they make him a heel so late into season 2? I didn't like it.
Especially because in season 1, I felt like that was a good subversion of, like, it made it seem like Oddball and the Wizard were part of, like, an evil cult, when really it's just their weekly, like, orgy meetup. But then in season 2, it's like, oh no, we're still a cult that's trying to like have some kind of control over the kingdom. It still wasn't warranted. Like if they had maybe laid the groundworks for it at the beginning, they had more interaction with Bean and Oddball, like actually coming to odds more often.
Right, like they're always civil towards one another. I didn't get this like, oh, now that Zog is out of the picture, I can kind of pretty much manipulate Derek into me being the true king. I'm like, but I never got any of that in season 1.
And that's why I feel like this season just felt very clunky in its execution of trying to tell a bigger epic story. For right now, it just kind of feels like it's thrown in there last minute.
This sounds super critical, this whole review, but I really enjoy this animation style. I love this world. I love these characters a lot.
Yeah.
Don't shoot me here. I'm not really a huge fan of Futurama. I don't really care for it. I like everything I see with Disenchantment much more. But I know I'm in the very small minority with that.
That's fair. But also, like, going back to, again, like, just certain character things, their characterization of Alpha was kind of all over the place. It would have been made more sense if they actually had more of an arc going over with him. The whole, he was upset when he found out that Bean chose her mom over him. Only, like, every so often decided to bring that up of him being upset about that still. Like, because then it would be, oh, hey, we're back to being friends and buddies and we're doing this stuff. Then back to, well, I'm upset with you right now. Oh, yeah, and being snide about things.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like that court hearing at the end where it's like, oh, wait, but now you want to use that.
Even as a character moment, it would have made more sense of, like, if they had spent a majority of the season of him being, like, at odds and being upset with Bean, and then have this moment, hey, you can just say all the horrible things you want about her right now, and he chooses not to. Like, it would have felt like better, like, bonding moment then. Like, it felt like Lucy was the only one who actually had more of a character arc in it, since
I agree.
He went from, hey, I'm gonna do like all these evil things, but then like when he has a chance to rescue them and the devil's basically saying if you leave you lose all of your privileges as a demon, and he still chose his friends over being in a higher position.
Yeah. No, I thought that was a great reveal towards the end when you said that. But guys, let me know what you thought of Disenchantment Season 2. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel for more anime content and just animated reviews. My name is DJ Miles.
And I'm Infinity Joe, and you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at InfinityJoe_art.
And as I always say, to be continued, take care.